Welcome everybody once again. This is Rafa with Mystic Times. I'm very happy that you're there. And today I have a very big privilege and honor to have with me this amazing couple, Yerasimos and Sophie. I'm sorry, Yerasimos, maybe I'm going to pronounce your name wrong for the first couple of times.
You pronounced it better than 99.9% of people, and you said it with the accent like a Greek would, Yerasimos. So you're
Wow.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's amazing because okay, we will get into this later, because there was a kind of a synchronicity for me that, okay, I'll say it now, because you guys were on the Alpha Cast. It was like more than a month or something like that ago, and I like the same night or the night before you guys were on there, or that I saw you at least, I had a dream I dreamt with a teacher from school who was a physical education teacher, and his name was Erasmo, which is in Spanish the same name.
Whoa!
And then you appeared on the podcast, and I liked you guys' energy. So that was kind of one of the synchronicities that I listen to those kinds of things, and I try to guide my life with them.
That's cool.
Yeah, and he was very strict. I don't know if you're a very strict kind of guy, but he was also fun or something like that. But
well, so, I guess you have asked my wife. I think I am actually strict in certain ways, maybe just in terms of my opinions and some of my views.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I'd like to say, fun. So there's another synchronicity.
Definitely fun.
Yeah. No, it's not like being strict is necessarily something negative. I mean, for him as a teacher, it was kind of a bummer for us, you know, that the physical education teacher was so strict. But he was fun sometimes also. And I wanted to just let people know, people who are watching, that we're going to try to talk a little bit about human design, about Eastern traditions, about healing, and you guys also know a lot about breath work. And yeah, those are some topics that I'm very connected with. All of that has been part of my life. The human design more recently, but the rest of the things were definitely part of my journey. So I was very happy to find in just two people, you know, so many things that we could touch upon. So if you guys want, maybe you would like to say hi to everybody and let people know a little bit more about yourselves.
Sure. Sophie, you want to start?
Sure. So I'm a body worker. Mainly all of my modalities are based in Chinese Meridian theory. So there's like physical body work, and then I'll also do energetic work, all based in the meridians. And then also I've done all of the somatic experiencing training. So I really pull that in a lot when I'm working with clients. I have a master's in spiritual psychology. I did philosophy and psychoanalysis in undergrad. Then I did a second master's in depth psychology with an emphasis in somatic studies. And then I did my PhD in depth psychology with an emphasis in somatic studies. So I just really focus on the body as part of the healing process. And my understanding the body is more of the unconscious aspect, the more shadow side. And so as we go into the body, we really get into those deep levels and uncover more than maybe the ego sometimes would like, or would allow with just strict talk therapy. Yeah, my focus in my dissertation was on touch, so on the interrelational dynamics of physical contact between people. I've always been really curious about relational dynamics between people, so that was really the inspiration for that. And that's also human design wise. So I've been, I think I was introduced to it probably 11 or 12 years ago now. And just kind of dabbled and a lot of self-study on it. And I just really love it. I just think it's been really helpful for me and for a lot of people that I've worked with. I really love the relational dynamics of that. And so how you can really get out of the compare contrast, how you can really get into more understanding of yourself, but also a partner or friends, family members, especially, all of that, like a little bit more understanding of maybe your upbringing, like if your parents had different designs, things like that, how all that works out and how you may have been conditioned. Yeah, so that's basically me.
That's it. That's her. That's it. Nothing else.
Awesome. So just to clarify, a master in depth psychology would mean that you know a lot about the psychology of Johnny Depp? No.
Johnny Depp.
No, it's not that, right?
Amber Heard.
So it's actually depth as in deep, correct? That's where the term comes from. Cool. Is that?
And it's really more of like Carl Jung's work.
All right, cool.
A lot of Reich, a lot of Freud. I mean, so many, but yeah, those are, I would say, cool. the fathers of depth psychology.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I kind of associated it with Carl Jung, so okay, I'm on the right track. Cool.
It's basically just the study of the unconscious. So how it's been explained is like there would be like a mainstream not talking about it, and why aren't we talking about it kind of idea.
I think you froze for a moment. I think you froze for a moment. Maybe it's my internet. So you were saying there is a main. Oh.
Yeah, that there'll be something that becomes mainstream. And so depth psychology would really want to focus more on what gets pushed to the sides or what becomes more shadowy, what becomes more unconscious in society even. I mean, self, but also society. So it's more of that study of what isn't being spoken about or what isn't being looked at.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's so important, and we'll probably get to talk a little bit about that. But please, Yerasimos, please share a little bit about yourself too.
Well, I was born on June 17th. No, I love learning. I love learning. I love knowledge. I love inspiring other people to learn and to know that education is their birthright. And I've always been a very curious person, and that has guided me in life. And I think curiosity and intuition go hand in hand. And so it's really supported me in my life on the windy road journey that I've been on, you know, from being educated to work in the hospitality industry and growing up in the restaurant business, to then realizing I wanted to explore the performing arts and acting, and that for me was the beginning point of self-exploration. I had a teacher that was heavily involved in psychological work and was heavily influenced by two psychologists, Drs. Hal and Sidra Stone. Dr. Hal passed recently, a couple of years ago at the age of 93, but it was a process of understanding yourself and understanding the development of your personality and why you are the way you are, and really understanding the compensatory nature of the human psyche. Whereas the more you over-identify with one way of being, you very often, speaking of depth psychology, you push other parts of you down into the unconscious. And so when I think about the unconscious, I think of it as forgetting something and forgetting that you've forgotten something. I might have even gotten that from my wife or someone. But and so from an acting standpoint, it really helped me one, empathize with more characters. But the most important thing was in my life was really honoring my development process, but then understanding that there was more to me. Like the great Walt Whitman quote, "We contain multitudes." I really was able to get in touch with not just the things that society would pat me on the back for, but the shadow, the darker elements, and bring some stuff to the surface to dance with, to play with. And so that was fascinating for me. I really enjoyed that process. And then that ultimately led me down the path of health. And I really started, I would say, over 15 years ago, started really getting into health and nutrition and going to school for that. And then that led me to the body and really being curious about what role the body plays in one's psychology and day-to-day interactions in life. And to make a very long story short, that's how I met Sophie as well. Shortly after moving from New York City to Los Angeles, we met a mentor who was trained in nutritional Chinese medicine and other modalities. And I just learned some really cool techniques to help a person really move the bioenergy and to release stored traumas from the body and to ultimately just be more congruent and more coherent, and around that time too, I was first introduced to human design, which is, well, I'm sure we'll get into, which is an amazing system of self-knowledge and self-understanding. And I feel like everything led me towards, especially being a lover of truth, but first and foremost, starting with your internal truth and knowing yourself on the deepest levels. And of course, I've been interested in everything going on in the world and who are we, where do we come from, what's happening, kind of just led me to my recent venture a couple of years ago, where I connected with my business partner, Joel Rafidi. We started the Here for the Truth podcast. And we have our group coaching program called Rise Above the Herd, and it's geared towards truth seekers to help them really, take control of their own lives, step out of stagnancy, build self-esteem even more, and just really awaken the hero to really create the life that they want and to step further into being the person they were born to be. And this is where human design comes in as well. So I love learning, I love healing, and I love being the most badass version of yourself. And it's an individual journey. So I like supporting people on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really, again, I connect very much with everything that you've said. I'm very interested in that coaching program that you have with your partner, Joel. And again, there's like so many coincidences, synchronicities. So I'm very, not on the podcast because I generally do it by myself, but in general, in outside of, in real life, let's say, I'm very, very, very united with my girlfriend. Just like you guys seem to be very, very like attuned and very in a beautiful kind of relationship. Let's say, I'm not going to project anything because we just met, but
well, we both have the 5 line in human design, so you will project. But
okay, and I'm a 3/5. I think it's Sophie. You're 3/5 too.
I am too. Yeah.
3/5 projector. So, and with my girlfriend, we're very, very united. People kind of know us as Mechi Rafa, like both together. And so again, and we met through a Chinese a Chinese Taoist teacher. And he's also a Chinese medicine doctor. So again, there's a kind of coincidence over there as well. Let me see, I was taking some notes. Yeah, also curiosity for me is like one of the main things that has brought me, that has helped me through my personal journey. And I also worked, and in fact, with my girlfriend, we met as I was working also in the hospitality industry. I was actually in a hotel, or in a hostel at that time. I was the receptionist and she was one of the guests. And in that same place is where we both met this Chinese medicine doctor. And then eventually, because we had talked with him, we started talking between ourselves, and stuff started developing between us. So, and I also did some acting. I wanted to point that out.
I love it.
And I can tell you one more even. My family, from my how to say this, my father's mother, so my parental grandmother.
Grandmother, yeah, paternal grandmother.
Yeah, her family. So my family from that side, they're from Greece as well. So there's another one. The last name is Mitre.
Okay.
So it's okay. I don't even know where to go from here, because I want to talk about the things that I wanted to talk about, but there's like so much that comes up. I love when this happens in podcasts, you know, the stuff that comes naturally. I
That's
try
how
to.
we do that's how we do our podcast. We don't really, we don't plan anything, you know,
Awesome.
we just see where it goes.
Yeah, I've been doing this for like 3 years already, and I always try to have like, okay, so this person I would like to talk about these things, and generally it just goes along a tangent at some point. But so human design, we all share this five. There's something kind of confusing for me about human, not confusing. I mean, it's so much information, right? Uh, at the same time, with the very basics, you can know a lot about yourself. But since we mentioned the five line, what is the what's up with the lines? What's that?
The lines
Yeah.
come from the 6 lines of the hexagram of the Chinese I Ching, the Book of Changes, one of the oldest books ever created. It comes from the observational sciences, and the I Ching is one of the 4 ancient sciences that human design is based on. And so the 6 lines, there are 12 profiles in human design, and they're made up of different combinations of the 6 lines. So you're a 3-5, Sophie's a 3-5, I'm a 5-1. So we all share the 5 line. And
Also the heretic, right?
it is the heretic.
What a
Yeah.
name for us.
So the heretic is, I mean, I love it, but that's a good thing, because if you didn't like it, then you might need to do some work to like it, because it's you know what I mean? So again, human
Right.
design is all about self-acceptance and self-love. So whenever I hear people who like talk about these divination arts or these more esoteric sciences, and like, well, I wish that wasn't, I don't like that. And it's like, well, okay, you got some work to do, because it's really about accepting yourself. But yeah, the 5 line is the 5 line is the heretic. It's I don't know why I'm going blank right now. Do you want to talk about the 5 line a little bit, babe?
Yeah, it's really about universalizing information. And it's generally going to be, again, something that isn't part of the mainstream. So the heretic being sort of like going against the grain a little bit. So it's probably going to be someone who studies something more alternative, is into more alternative information, and then wants to universalize that information. So bring it really out to the masses. They're going to synthesize things. So then it also, because the profile is made up of 2 numbers, so the first number is going to be your more conscious number. Your second number is more of an unconscious thing. So it's probably something that somebody else would describe you as, rather than you describing yourself. So for Yerasimos being a 5-1, the 5 is like his conscious one. So it's the one he's going to be really aware of. For us as 3-5s, we're going to be more aware of the 3 aspect, and the 5 is going to feel a little bit more foreign, potentially, depending on, how much work you've done, how deeply you've gone into it. But yeah, it's really about finding information and then wanting to universalize it out to people.
Yeah. The other key thing with the heretic too is it's about delivering practical, and like Sophie said, universalizing practical, universal truth. And with the 5 line, I know we mentioned it before about the projection, is it's very often viewed by others as like the savior, the hero, So there's leadership qualities that go with the 5 line as well. And it's that hero kind of energy that it causes people to project, I'll say onto us, but onto the 5 line. And one of the biggest things I always share with 5 lines is, because we have that savior type energy and we get projected on, we don't need to save the world. We don't need to save everyone. And this is where the basics of human design come in. And it's about honoring strategy and authority. And again, strategy is your unique strategy that correlates to your type. So we have 2 projectors here, you and Sophie, with a wait for the invitation, and I'm a generator, wait to respond. And then depending on your authority, I don't know what's your authority? Are you emotional or
Splenic?
Splenic.
Splenic.
So again, like for you, your authority is, it's that whisper, it's that knowing, it's before anything enters into the mind to start going, well, but this, it's like that inner, it's that intuitive, instinctual hit. and to get in touch with that and to just know. And for us, we're both emotionals. So, we're always existing on an emotional wave. So we need to, it's not really about making a decision in the now. It's really about knowing that we have to give ourselves some time and have some patience and allow ourselves to move through the wave. So again, like you talked about before, there's so many complexities to human design, and it could be overwhelmed. I mean, even people in our coaching program, like we talk about human design, they're like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. I just have to say, listen, let's just keep coming back to the basics, type, strategy, authority, and that kind of thing. And a lot of things will unfold from that, because it's an experimental process. Great. Yeah, we get knowledge, here we are sharing knowledge, we're sharing information, but human design isn't supposed to be like fuel for mental masturbation. It really is meant to be put into action and to be experimented with. So anyways, threes know all about experimentation. So you guys can talk about that.
Yeah, I was trying to think if this was part of the three. So the trying many different things, for me up until today, or I'm still like trying to find that one thing that will kind of close the loop on everything. I kind of have, but still I know that there's like so much more potential for everything that I know that I can be and do or whatever. I don't know how it's been for you, Sophie, in that case.
Yeah, I mean, the three is all about experimentation. It's known as the martyr. So it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistake making. A lot of threes may struggle with or have been brought up in more of like a perfectionistic mindset of like, oh, I'm not supposed to make mistakes, or a little bit of hesitancy around experimenting with things and potentially not having it work out. But that's actually how we're designed to exist in the world. So I always joke with three, so that there's a bunch of three profiles, but the 3-5. If we're not making mistakes, we're not learning.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember when I was young.
Embrace the mistakes.
Yeah. When I was young, I remember I would constantly have to tell my father, "Let me make mistakes." And up until this day, he still kind of doesn't get it at all. When I say that, he understands. In order to learn, I must make mistakes, and I'm not saying that I need to make mistakes, but when I was small, both my parents were kind of kind of overprotective of me, and I was like always trying to experiment, and they would like try to stop me, and I would say, no, but I need to make mistakes to learn. It's not that I want to make mistakes because that's the only way to learn, but I know that through the mistakes I am going to learn, and that's a lesson that through spirituality and through growing a little bit older, I've realized how important it is for me, and I see it as very important for everybody, but maybe it's
yeah. I mean, I think it's important to everyone.
Will also have, I mean, you'll have your profile, which is your main two lines, but then even if you look at a human design chart, you're going to have, so all of your gates are going to be listed, and then you'll have like a number, which is the gate, and then it'll be a period, and then one of the lines, so it'll be a number 1 through 6 next to it. So all of us have all of these, and we have access to all of them. It's just what is the most lit up, or what is the most consistent in your life.
Yeah,
we all have all of them.
What I love what you said too, because it just highlights it. And this is the really cool thing about people when they get exposed to this knowledge, they have that aha moment, because again, threes, you have a natural ability. You just keep doing things, trying over and over again, even if you fail, because innately you're not afraid of failing. Now, you may have been raised by parents who beat that out of you or condition that out of you to some degree. And then this is part of the deconditioning process, is to come back home, per se, to come back to yourself and come back to that person you're born to be. But threes, I love threes because they don't need the rule book for life. They really just, they're not going to be like, oh, here's the recipe, you could do this first, this second. You're like, no, I'm just jumping in and figuring it out, see what happens, see what works, see what doesn't, which is cool. It's like you when you cook and you do things and you like to just experiment.
And so I was just gonna joke about that because whenever I'm like cooking, or even when we first got together, I would cook, but my cooking is very like, this is what I have, I'll figure it out. And then if it doesn't taste good, I'll just keep adding things until either it tastes sort of edible or it's now has everything in it. So there's nothing else to eat. So we have to eat it. And Yerasimos is a little bit more used to really good tasting edible food.
I'm a
So in the
snob.
beginning, I would cook that way, and there was some mishaps or mistakes. And so I kind of stopped cooking a little bit more in our relationship. He took over more of the cooking. I mean, he's Greek, he is amazing.
My one line too, you know, I really like learned and I investigated through the things that I did to build a solid foundation of knowing how to cook, you know.
Right.
So that helps.
But
Yeah,
now
definitely.
I cook more, but I'll go with the recipe. But I don't think I've ever in my life gone like line by line on a recipe.
Yeah.
Like I always change something. I always I have to tweak it, even in baking, which I feel like is
You're
so
not supposed to do.
dangerous. But well.
Yeah, it's really amazing to like go with a recipe, and then you just open the cupboard and oh, I have this spice.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try just a little bit of this to see whatever. And my girlfriend always tells me that I'm like always trying to mix different flavors. So I will have like a salty cookie, and I'll put some what's this called, some strawberry jam or whatever, or mix stuff that kind of don't go together, because I'm like, I want to experiment. I mean, somebody must have experimented when they invented, I don't know, I don't know if you call this the caprese, you know, like cheese,
Cheese and tomato.
and I think it's basil is the other thing.
Yeah.
It's like a combination that, how did you come up with that? But it's amazing. And I don't know, etc. Whatever, like sweet with spicy or spicy chocolate, stuff like that, you know. I'm getting my mouth is getting all wet from the
I'm getting hungry too. I
actually have
some breakfast lunch after this.
a fruit bowl over here, but I'm trying to be respectful and not eat while we're speaking, but it's over there and it's very, very
Right. You do what you have to do. It's no disrespect to me, that's for sure.
It's okay.
But there's also, so there's a piece of that I always really like to kind of like hone in on, because Yerasimos mentioned it, of the deconditioning process. So in human design, it's not, oh, this is your design and you're this sealed, you know, vacuum packed thing that isn't part of the world. We're part of the world. We're always being influenced by anyone else's design that we're around. Even like right now, our dog is on my lap. Her design is going to be interacting with my design. Animals have a slightly different design, but they do have their own human design, or animal design, I guess. And then, you know, Yerasimos and I's profiles will be, or designs will be interacting whenever we're in the same space. If you're in a gathering, you're interacting with all these different things. You're going to be mostly influenced by whoever raised you, you know, and was around you, especially those 1 to 7 first years, their design. So I really love that human design focuses on the deconditioning process in the way that we have been consciously, unconsciously conditioned by parents, caretakers, siblings, the world, you know, anyone that we're around. And so really looking at, okay, this is how I'm designed. Now, how do I interact with others? And how has that maybe influenced my experience of my design? Like, even as you're saying, growing up, you know, they were more protective of you, but you knew innately like, oh, but I need to be making mistakes. I need to be experimenting with things. And so how, you know, a lot of kids maybe didn't have that, or maybe would lose that innate knowing. And then they're trying to be something other than their three-ness, if that's, you know, part of their profile. So I really love that dynamic, or just focusing on that in human design, that we're always in this process of deconditioning or coming back to ourselves, and how do we do that? And yeah, not in a negative way against anyone else, but just that we aren't these independent little bubbles that nothing else interacts with. We're always in relational dynamics.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, since you bring this deconditioning and in particular the conditioning that happens first, because many times people will have this kind of, there's this phase perhaps of being like mad or angry because your parents or your family, your society, whatever conditioned you. But I've come to a point where I kind of see it as just a natural process in the evolution of a person and humanity. Like, of course, you're going to be conditioned because the people who raise you, those who came before you, they will already have a kind of relatively rigid way of interacting with the world and with us, with you in particular, and through no necessarily negative intention from them, they will just try to share what they think is best for you and try to mold you in the way that they understand, even at a subconscious level for them. So many times people get hung up on, oh yeah, but if I hadn't been raised this way, I could be X, Y, Z, or I could be better in this, but those kinds of things, although they are nice to like have certain consciousness about them, at the same time, it's kind of a waste of time to think, oh, I could be, because you are the way or who you are today. And actually, the good things that you have already, they are in part a product of that conditioning that happened, which maybe led you to push against those boundaries and find yourself and find different ways of expressing your human design in this case that we're speaking about, or the way that you feel, or that impulse that comes maybe from your soul, from your higher self, from, I don't know, I guess people watching this will not have a problem with these terms. So yeah, just wanted to point out that it's not necessarily something bad that we get conditioned when we're young. I guess it's one of those paradoxes in life, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just real quickly, it's like when you stay in that place of like, oh, I wish I could this, why was this happen to me? You're just staying in victim consciousness, you know, like it's okay to know, like you said, and to be aware of things at the end of the day though, but okay, and now today, and now what are you going to do next? And what's the next thing to do? You know, this is where personal responsibility, self-responsibility comes in, and to have the awareness of like, well, okay, this is my design, but I was raised in this way and I was conditioned in this way, and I don't really feel connected to this or that, but what can I do about it now? You know, because it is all part of your journey, you know, so you can accept it and then do what's necessary to move closer towards doing the things and being the person that you want to be.
Yeah.
Or you can sit there and you can complain and you can, you know, do the things that are keeping you stagnant, pretty much.
Yeah, it's kind of choosing an excuse to not grow up, I guess. Like, oh yeah, no, it's people's fault that I'm here. I could be over there and be this different way, but I'm here and it's somebody else's fault, and there's nothing I can do. So
there's nothing I can do. It's too late. It's too late now. Okay, it's too late. Meanwhile, you have millions of examples of people around you who are like older than us, and they've changed their world, their career, their, you know, so it comes back down to the individual.
Even having gone through perhaps experiences harder than we might have. So yeah, that's amazing, you know, having people who we can reference to, you know, like reading their biographies or just having a kind of general idea of their lives and trying to I guess the word is to kind of mold ourselves in their image a little bit. Or, I mean, nobody's perfect, but you know, the things that inspire us from our mentors, our leaders, our idols, let's say. And I had another question in human design. Sophie, you mentioned how we have all the lines in the planets, right, on the graph. I don't know if maybe we should share one for people to, or But so we have the lines, and my question comes like, so okay, let's say you have, I don't know which numbers I do, but let's say you have, because I understand in human design you have the sun and you have the earth as well in the chart, and then you have all the other planets. And the 3-5, for example, in my case, I think it's in the unconscious and in the conscious side, the sun and the earth, they have the 3 and the 5, correct? And so let's say your Mars or your Venus, your Mercury, whatever, they have a particular number. Is there this kind of like merging of like the characteristics of Mercury with the characteristics of the whatever line you have in it, for example?
Yeah, so it'll kind of be like a tint on it, or it'll kind of be like how it will express more through you. So like say your Venus, you know, is some gate 0.3, just because we've already been talking about the 3. So you may have more experimentation based in that personality trait. So the gates are going to be more of your personality. So then it'll just like tinge that.
It's a little flavor, like a little different flavor, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah. It's
Again,
also like, that's pretty next level. Again, like,
Yeah, those are one of those deeper levels.
It's more deeper and advanced.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, like with people that are new to this, like getting into the nitty gritty, the gate and the line, like that's probably not what you want to do in the beginning. I mean, if you're curious about it, sure, but I wouldn't like lose sleep over it and cause yourself to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. No, I've also been into astrology for some time. So I was like, I had this like, yeah, this doubt or this question as to how human design interfaces with astrology. And now that you're bringing the lines and the planets, I'm getting a clearer idea. Because before I thought it was kind of like, yeah, you have your planets, but it doesn't kind of really matter for your human design. But now I see it has an effect, but it's relatively subtle in comparison with the other aspects of the modality, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, astrology is there to provide the location of the planets, etc., for the two forms of data. You know, you have the personality data that comes at the birth time, and then you have the design data that comes about 3 months or 88 days before you're born. So that's how it impacts you. And then this also correlates with like the element of human design, the scientific, the neutrino element of human design. So the sun, personality sun, makes up a large part of your imprint, your neutrino imprint. So, and then of course, like relative to astrology, all the different planets, the north node, south node, depending on their, you know, what their themes are, they'll impact you in a certain way, like Sophie was talking about.
Yeah, I'm looking for mine so I can share it. Give me just a moment. Can you see the graph?
Yeah.
All right. Want me to go to this other tab?
What? You could do whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I like that
mean,
you have mind connected to throat. I mean, mind to throat. So very good at expressing what's on your mind.
I kind of have a hard time. So the open centers, they are like where like other people's stuff kind of. So if somebody else had an open center as well, that wouldn't necessarily affect you as another person who does have a fixed center which you have open, right?
Well, not in the same way, but let's say you both had 2 open centers, but you had opposite gates in the open centers, then you would activate the channel together, and then you both would have that channel activated in your interpersonal dynamic.
Right. It's kind of like circuits, like electrical circuits. I'm getting the.
And that's what it is. When gates complete each other, opposite ones, that's like the electromagnetic connection. But the simplest way to think about the defined centers and the undefined centers is the defined center is the transmitter. The undefined center, and by undefined, I mean it's white in your chart, is the receiver. And so that's where we get conditioned from and influenced by others who have that colored in, etc.
Cool. So this is my, where are we? This is my spleen. Here we go. It's such. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Sophie.
What were you gonna say? It's such what?
Oh, no, it's such a I mean, it's so deep, this subject, the human design, and even the story behind it. You know, the I don't know, the channeling or whatever that he had I think he was in Ibiza partying or whatever. I don't know if he was partying, but it's known for the parties that place.
Yeah. I don't think back then he might have just been. I think he went on a walkabout. He left his life and his family in Canada and went there in the 80s or mid 80s, I think, or whatever it was. But this happened on January 3rd, 1987, when he encountered the voice.
That's a very
yeah. I mean, I was just talking about it on the Unslaved podcast where I was talking about human design and I shared the story, and I'm I can be skeptical for channels and some of this stuff, and I think some of it is bullshit, but then some of it I can't deny someone's personal experience. Also, look at human design, this impact it's had on so many people, and it's pretty amazing. So it's wild.
No, for me, I didn't mean to imply that I thought it was kind of bullshit or anything like that. It's one of those that for me rings very true, but at the same time it was like such an intense experience from what I know from his story. Like he had, I think I saw a video where he was talking about it, but it was very long ago. I don't remember the details, but he had this like intense kind of, fire is the word that comes to mind when I'm thinking of this story. Whereas sometimes, you think about channelings and it's more like a person is relaxed and just some breathing and information comes in. But this was more like a kind of like an invasion of his being, that kind of something, it feels like something was in a rush to bring this information to Earth for some reason. I don't know what in his chart made him like the particular guy for this. And just a few minutes ago, you were talking about these two things. So we have the red and the black. I guess it's the conscious and the unconscious in a person. And one of them comes online 88 days before you're born. I used to think it was like at the point of conception, maybe like 9 months before. But so these 88 days, would this kind of coincide with maybe when the soul enters it's not a fetus at the time, the baby?
That's what Ross says, I believe. That's the time when I think it's the soul, the psyche enters, or something of that nature. I'm not sure, which is interesting to think about.
I'm gonna stop the share because it's not very interesting. It's not moving or anything, and people need stuff to move around to get into stay engaged. It's all just no. So
it's also so even when we're talking about it with the conscious, unconscious, so it's also people also refer to it as like the body and the personality.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, tell me.
But the unconscious is more of the body experience, and then the conscious is going to be more of the personality experience.
And which is the one that comes online 88 days before?
The body.
The body. And then the other side, you say, is the consciousness, the mind? When
you actually like are out, whatever your birth time.
The moment your entire body is out of the womb, you get imprinted with the neutrino stream. This is where your date of birth comes from.
And would you say you are then, because this other aspect of the neutrinos is also very interesting. Again, it's such a deep subject. So just to recap for people, again, I've always thought, for example, of astrology as, it's kind of like gravity, there's like a line between you and this planet, and there's some characteristics being projected or shared between them. And that line is different from another person and whatever. And so with him and the idea of the neutrinos, it kind of validated that kind of intuition that I had in astrology, but with this scientific thing. So there's neutrinos coming into the planet, which they are known to go through matter, correct? And they go through the planets, and I guess they get some electromagnetic or whatever kind of thing, and they get onto your body when you come out. And my question was, so while you're inside the womb, are you in some way protected from that, or why is there that kind of difference?
I'm not sure, actually. I don't have the answers to that. I mean, I talked about this in a previous show, or the host brought it up. I mean, the mother's being impacted by the neutrinos. So I think that plays a role, but I don't know. I don't know if the baby's being the fetus, the baby is being impacted by neutrinos while it's in the womb. I haven't really heard or read much about it, but it's possible.
I guess he
Somehow.
must be, or it must be, but there is something in the electromagnetic field of the mother, perhaps, that kind of shields or at least colors the neutrinos differently, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. It is interesting to think about, because when you think about the neutrinos, there's trillions of them going through like every square inch of your body, of the environment, every second. And so they're going through planets, they're leaving some information, they're taking on information, and it's this process, it's this dance. I mean, I don't know, it's way beyond even like what my mind sometimes can comprehend, but it's fascinating. And you know what? And it's good to know this stuff. Like, our minds are curious, and then it's like, here's a system, here's the knowledge, you take it in. Oh, let me see if it works for me. Let me try my strategy. Let me try my authority. Oh, wow, I found out I was an emotional authority. You know what? You know how many times I write that email when I'm really angry? You know how many times I like say yes to something because I'm really excited, or I say no to something because I'm down and depressed? Maybe I should wait. Like, just imagine that. Like, there's 3 of us here, but there's billions of people on this planet, and who we are in any given moment has a lot to do with the major and minor choices that we have made up until that point. When you think about your life, you think about your life's journey, think about your hero's journey, even back to the point of what you were talking about, the person who might be like, oh, I could be there, I could be there. Well, they made, for whatever reason, it could be conditioning, could be other, they've made choices. There's so many choice points, yeses and nos. This is correct for me, this isn't correct for me. So your choices will determine your destiny. And so here is a system that's different than other, let's say, tools. Like, even if you bring in numerology or astrology or whatever, they have their wisdom and their knowledge, but they don't have strategy and authority. And this is what makes human design so unique.
Yeah, very practical.
There's a practical, mechanical element to it, and that's why I always harp on it. Like, just okay, great. There's all this fluffy, sparkly knowledge and information in human design. Strategy and authority. Strategy and authority. Look at you with the light shining.
I know. I was like, I'm gonna have to try and figure out where to go, because we have a skylight, and I guess with the timing now, I
don't know. You seem so angelic right now. All we need to listen to your voice. Sophie, please give us the wisdom.
I was definitely going to mention something about it. Yeah, it's kind of, again, a synchronicity. We're talking about the neutrinos and
exactly.
The soul and the channelings and whatever, and information coming up from above or whatever, and this happens.
I think it's kind of cool personally, but
Yeah, definitely. Let me see. We've talked. All right, so let's do this. Let me see. We are like at 50 something. Yeah. All right. Let's do this. Let's close this first hour here. Okay. We were kind of general, and at the same time we were specific, so that's very cool. And maybe, since you just mentioned a little bit about, well, at the start you mentioned. You mentioned shadow work, and right now you were talking about the practical aspects of all these systems and all of this information, which we can, just as we can get distracted with the victim mentality, we can get distracted with the mystical mentality or whatever, and again use that as an excuse to not do the inner work, which I think is something that if not very important, if not the most important thing, it's up there, because all of the books that we can read, all of the information that we can get, and maybe some people channel stuff and they channel it themselves, apart from maybe hearing different channelers or whatever. But then what do we do with all this information? Do we just dress the mind up with those thoughts and those ideas, or do we put them into practice And for me, it's been a kind of love-hate relationship with the practice aspect of the thing. I guess it kind of is for most of us, because it requires a kind of commitment and so many other things, you know, self-love, and you talk about self-esteem as well. So yeah, maybe I would like for us in the second half to get into the more practical aspect of all of
doing
this.
the work.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you want, whatever you think your audience would like. We're open.
Yeah, awesome, very good. So if you would like, guys, share your links or whatever where people can get in touch or follow you.
Sure.
Sure.
I'll start. My website with my business partner is www.hereforthetruth.com. That's our podcast page. Also, our group coaching programs, www.riseabovetheherd.com.au. You can find me on Instagram at _Yerasimos, YERASIMOS.
So mine, it's a really basic website, but it's sophiefletcherphd.com. And then my Instagram is also sophiefletcher.phd. So
awesome. I can see you're kind of uncomfortable with the so much power coming raining down from the heavens. So I'll make it quick.
I'm getting the download right now, guys. I may be channeling a new human design.
Design 2.0.
Ask them to share something practical for the next hour. And yeah, for me, you guys can follow me on Instagram as well. It's @manrafa, and yeah, and go ahead and check out the Patreon. I'm very happy to share there some of my music. I do some healings and exclusive episodes. And yeah, I'm very happy that you guys were here for this beautiful journey, and I hope to see you guys on the other side. When I mean you guys, I mean the audience. You guys better be there, because it's not
we'll be there.
to be just by myself. But well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys on the other side.
Thank you.